right, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the G8 Only podcast. I'm here with Chris Merry. For those who don't know him, famously known for the white car with the teal everything, right?
Yep.
Teal turbos, teal wheels, teal motor parts. Famously have the exhaust sticking out the side of the front bumper.
Right.
I know a lot of guys were feeling some kind of way too when you did that, right? Cutting up a G8 bumper to throw exhaust through it.
Well, when I had bought that bumper, it was $850, and I got everything with it. That was back in 18.
Oh, that's
yeah, and it was a brand new bumper. It wasn't a used one.
They were readily available.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now it's like I'll say, well, I cut 2 holes in a $2,500 bumper, and it is what it is now.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you had to, you could always plastic weld it. You could fix it.
Yeah,
if you had to, but,
with me working at a body shop and being a body tech, I could glue plastic back in it and not have to worry about it. But it's
what are they, the hot staples, right? You
yeah,
staple them in and secure it. It's funny because when I did my Holden conversion, I don't even know how long ago that was, 3 years ago now. Even back then, GXP because I had the GXP bumper on my car, they weren't nearly as expensive or hard to get as they are now.
Right.
And when I had a guy reach out to me, I want to say, I think it was in Maryland, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll come get it." Blah blah. And I sold it for sub $1,000. He had a white car too, so it worked out.
Yeah.
So it was freshly painted white with all the grills. I sold it with the Morimoto fog lights, everything for like sub $1,000. And back then he was like, "Yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's worth it." And now, man, if right, hindsight's 2020. I mean, I wish I would have $3,000 bumper.
Right. I wish I would have kept a couple. Yeah, because I know
I would if only you knew.
Right, and the only reason I upgraded to the GXP bumper was because the car was in an accident back in 18, and I was like, well, I might as well buy one now. And a guy from Detroit hit me up. It was like, hey, I got a front bumper, and I was like, well, what kind is it? And they're like, it's a GXP. I was like, what do you want for it? And he was like, $850. I said, what's it come with? Because that's what they were going just for the bumper. And when I priced everything out, it was like $1,500 through GM Parts Direct. And he goes, I got everything for $850. And I was like, all right, I will be there this weekend. So I went and picked it up, got a brand new GXP bumper, wasn't even painted, had all the fog lights, grills, inserts, everything. And I was like, this is a steal. So dude, I kind of got lucked into that one. Yeah. So now you can't even touch them.
Yeah. No,
ones that are like beat up are like $2,500. So
it's funny because the gray car, I don't know if you saw the videos or the pictures. The gray car that I had, that I'm basically yanking the drivetrain out of, that car had a GXP bumper on it, and he hit the wall at the track, right? So the bumper was just like split in half and bent backwards, and I made a post kidding around. I was like, "Oh yeah, for sale, $1,700. I know what I got,"
right.
And believe it or not, I had quite a few people hit me up privately, and they were like, "I'll buy it off you. I'll give you $500 for it. I could fix that." And I'm like, "Dude, I already threw that thing in the garbage, man. I think because it was literally bent in half, cracked top, bottom, sideways." And people still wanted it because I guess if you think about it, if you pick it up for $500 and you throw $1,000 into it at a body shop to have it fixed professionally, you're still ahead of the game.
Yeah, that's it's crazy. Obviously you can't find them really much anymore, especially new ones, and it's only going to get worse.
Oh yeah, that's why you see, like these guys who are bringing over the Australian bumpers, like Mark Wolf, right? Who's bringing over Commodore Specialties was bringing. That's why they're so wildly successful, right? Because you could get from Mark when he has them, but you could get a Series 1 or a Series 2. I have a Series 1, I think. I have a Series 1 on mine, but you get a Series 1 or a Series 2 bumper. Forget a bumper, a whole conversion, bumper, hood, all the inserts and blah blah blah, the little grills and everything for less than what you would get just a GXP bumper.
Yeah,
just a bare bumper, no grills, no nothing.
Yep. Because I looked into doing the V3 conversion, and it was like $2,600 for the front bumper and the DRLs or whatever they are for the front end. But
the gorgeous front end though.
Yeah, right now it's like, do I spend that or do I spend money on Go Fast parts? And it's been Go Fast parts lately because
clearly.
So it's maybe later down the road or something happens to the car or whatever, I might go that route. But until then, the GXP bumper will stay on there. Unless someone was like, hey, I'll give you $4 or $5 for it, then hey, see you, bye. But until then,
everything's got a price.
Everything's got a price. So
everything. I have people ask me. I recently had somebody ask me. They were like, "Oh, would you ever think of selling your car?" I'm like, I would, but the number is so goddamn high. That nobody with a reasonable mindset would ever pay what I'm willing to sell it for.
Yep.
You know, I know you can't put a value on sentimental value, but I certainly can. There's a number on.
Yeah, there's a number on everything for me.
But I am not shy. You want to buy the car, sure, but
it's going to cost you.
You better have. You better be independently wealthy. You know, and my car ain't nothing special, but you better have money if you want to take that thing from me.
What would it take?
Oh shit, man! Honestly, for my car, I'll probably get flamed for this, but I don't think I would get rid of it for any less than like 60.
Yeah,
you know, and the way it sits, and it's not that it's you could buy a G8 and replicate my car for way less than 60.
Right,
but that's my car.
Yeah, it's your car.
You know what I'm saying? Like you want I love that car. You have to fill that void with cash.
Yep.
You know, when I get rid of that car, there's gonna be a void here. You need to fill it with cash for me to even consider selling it.
And that's where I'm at with mine. If someone was like, here, I'll give you 60, 70K, and I'm like, all right, see you, bye. Like
yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like nobody in their right mind would ever pay that, and I know that. You know, but when people ask, because they do, you know, people ask like, oh yeah, you know, what would you consider selling? I'm like, yeah, bro, $60,000. And they're like, no, it's not worth that. I know
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it on paper,
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I wouldn't pay 60 if someone came to me and was like, this is for sale for 60. I'm like, fuck out of here, you know?
Right. Yeah,
but if you want mine,
yeah, that's how I was when I first bought the G8, because I was looking into a CTSV and stuff, and I was like, well, if I can get into a G8 for a decent price, I said I could double or triple the horsepower in a G8 for the price I could have into a CTSV, because at the time they were like 35, 40 grand still. So ended up going the G8 route, and well, it's kind of got out of hand now. But
yeah, I mean, think about it though. You went the complete opposite direction. CTSV, you would have went with a root style blower, and here you are, a turbo. So.
Yep. Yeah, I've always been a turbo guy.
So that's one thing that I was actually just having this talk the other day with the guy next door has a performance shop, and that's one thing I've never owned a turbo car. I've had plenty of supercharged cars. I've never owned a turbo car. I've driven them quite a bit, and I've had, you know, I've been in them, you know, as a passenger quite a bit, but I've just never owned a turbo car. And you know, part of me wants to. Obviously, I would love anything that's gonna go ripping. I want, you know, you know, but you know, it's when you dive so deep into one lane, you know, and you're like, okay, well, you know, I love root style blowers. I just love them.
Yeah,
you know, I love the instant torque. I love the power. And then it's like, yeah, well, turbos could give you all that power up top where you want it when you're really going fast. And I know the fastest car in the world is a turbo cars, but in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I just, you know, I personally haven't done it, but I do see that in my future. I do see being a big turbo build. I'll probably be calling you up like, bro, help me out here. I am a fish out of water, bro.
No, that's I mean, I'm fortunate enough that a lot of the friends that I have are big into turbos. So that's where I get a lot of my knowledge from. But you can't beat the instant horsepower with a LSA or a Pro Charger or something like that. It's a different feeling.
I mean, the root style blowers, it is. And like I said, I mean, I've driven plenty of turbo cars. I've ripped the shit out of them, and I've been in more than I could count of them. But, you know, for me, it's something about a roots blower where, I mean, it's literally right on the other side of that pedal. Yeah. There's no buildup. There's no nothing. It's there. It's waiting, you know, and it's like, you know, I mean, it's that shit, it's practically making boosted idle, you know, it's just like, come on, give it to me. You know, it's like right there. And
Yep.
so to me, that's always been such a good draw. But there are a lot of negatives to it too.
Right.
I mean, you know, even my car, which is, you know, well sub 1,000 horsepower, you know, my car is probably knocking around, if I had to guess, 720, 730 wheel, maybe a little less, give or take, right? And even at that power, it's, you know, you're feathering it all the time around turns.
Right.
You're you know, it's because if you go just a little too hard on, you know, you feather it just a little bit too much, you just put a little too much into the throttle on any kind of anything but straight, car sideways.
Yep.
You know, so it you know, I'm actually having my car redone.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing a 2650 in it. And from Boost District, shout out to Rashawn because he hooked me up on that. He really helped me out, set me in the right path because I was between that and a couple other things. But yeah, like even with the with that, it's like in the back of my head, I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I mean, I'm on a 1900, and you know, it's like you're going around turning your feather. I'm going to damn near idle through turns at this point when I put this 2650 on. Like, you know,
there's no just hit the gas and expect it to hook up. So
I remember the first time when I got my car tuned with the LSA on it, and Rick had done the tune remotely from North Carolina. So I'm like, okay, I picked it up and I'm driving it home, and I was on the highway, the parkway out here, and, you know, probably going about, I don't know, 60, 70 miles an hour, something like that. And I remember this Hellcat got next to me, as luck would have it, on the way home. And it was a young kid driving, and he's like, come on, man, let's go. And he drops it down. He's like, he's doing the room. He's revving it back and forth. And I'm like, all right, man, I'll play around a little bit. You know, let's see what this bitch has, you know. And it's, so we slow down. It's on pump too. It's not on E at this point. So we slow down, and, you know, I drop it in a second. We're at 40. And, you know, he honks. He just, you know, he of course, he jumps the third honk.
Right.
He's controlling the honk.
Exactly.
He jumps, right? But he jumps. So he's already got like half a car. I mean, I just mash on it. And I'll never, granted, I was on street tires, but I'll never forget, man. I was just like instant heart drop because the thing is now blowing the tires off at like 40 miles an hour from the dig or from the roll. And it's just, and I beat him, but as I'm beating him, as I'm pulling on him, I'm still dragging smoke behind me. And I'm like, holy
trying
shit,
to feather it to keep
monster,
it.
bro. Yeah. I didn't even go past, like, I got it to like 120, and I'm like, all right, I'm out. I'm done. You know, because, you know, he wanted to keep going. He got next to me. I'm like, nah, bro. You know, I didn't want to, at that point, I'm like, I don't know. You know, this thing's on Firehawks. You know, I'm like, and they're not even wide. You know, I'm on like a 19 8.5 square setup. I'm like, I'm not.
And a fresh build and all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, not with the instant torque, but like when I first built the car, like I pulled it off the dyno, like took it down the street, didn't have any front end on it or anything. And like, I got into it and instant sideways, and I was like, what the hell did I just do? Like, because I went from a 14 second car to a 8-second capable car without any in between. Like, I didn't work my way up to it or anything. And so when I like jumped on, exactly. And it got sideways, and it like scared the shit out of me. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, and so obviously I took the baby steps to go there. But when like where I live at is pretty much out in the boonies. It's like 20 minutes south of where I work. And like on the road, you can like pass people, like, And so like the first time I did that, I went to go hammer it real quick, not thinking only on 10 pounds of boost. It like, I had to get out of it real quick. So it like my butt puckered up. I was like, oh shit. And then so like, to pass people now is like half throttle, like just enough to get by there and you're out of it again.
Yeah.
Cause if I hold it, it'll get sideways. And that was driving around with the Mickey Thompsons, the 275 60s.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy to drive something like that on the street, because you have to respect it enough to keep it under control, because things can get out of hand real quick.
Oh, for sure. Especially at the power level you're at, you know. So, you know, when you're going from, like you said, like, you know, a 14-second car, I mean, that's a stock car.
Completely
you know,
stock.
like,
Completely stock.
You know, that's actually, you know, to go.
I went 14.0 completely stock on it.
Yeah, so I mean, to go from that to a car like you said, it's an 8-second capable car with no in between, no buildup. That's there's a steep learning curve with something like that. That's not,
and it.
I'm already preparing myself for the learning curve I'm going to have to go through when I get my car back. And, I didn't go from such a drastic change, so I could only imagine what it must have been like, just like, cause you're used, you get to the point where the car, the car. I know, in my car now, I've been driving it long enough the way it is that I know what it's capable of. I know where it's going to, where it's going to blow the tires off, where it's not, where I'm safe to like mash on it, where I'm not. But that takes time. You have to learn the car. And then when you do something like what you did, where you go from stock to literally full build, max effort. And now you're like, you have to learn that all over again. And in your head, you're like, that's still my car. I can still mash on it and pass this guy. Yeah. Right. Yeah, you can, but you're also going to be blowing the tires off and you might end up in the woods. So you got to be careful.
Yeah. It took me like a good, the first summer of having the build done, like it was still on stock trans and like towards the end of the season, Justin Covington, he's the one that built the trans. He helped me out with the tune on it, but it didn't take me until the following year to actually start getting into low nines at the time.
Right.
And without changing it, so like the third year, this past year, the car was always low nines, high eights, every single time. So it's taken me 2-3 years to get used to the car and that horsepower.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a good place to be consistently.
Yeah, when at LS Fest, it made 4 passes and it went 910, 910, 893, and a 911.
That's great.
So I mean, it's the most consistent it's been the whole time, and it's surprisingly because of the car. It's the factory motor that came in the car.
Oh wow! Okay.
It has 162,000 miles on the motor, and all we did with the bottom end was gap the rings, throw a cam, spring retainer package. So it's like still stock intake, stock throttle body, stock heads. Yeah.
See, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for you to say, no, it's still a stock motor, but we, brand new rotating assembly, and it's like stock block, basically.
No. Yeah, the only thing I did was to the bottom end was gap the rings for boost. Yeah. So when it gets onto high boost pressure, it wouldn't blow apart. But yeah, we gapped the rings for boost, and then I threw it all back together, and then buddy of mine spec'd the cam out for it, and then the heads are 821 heads. No port work on anything. Like the intake's completely stock. No ported intake. No.
That's crazy.
Whatever the stock rod mod or whatever that is.
The rod mod. Yeah.
Like it doesn't have any of that.
No shit.
Stock throttle body. So for the car to go 890s.
Yeah.
It's been 890s a couple times, and then it's been mid fives in the eighths towards the end of the series. Yeah. Like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of eighth mile racing out here. Yeah.
No, up in Michigan, a lot of grudge racing happens up here.
That's all eighth up there?
So a lot of the no time, a lot of the no time. I mean, you'll be able to get a quarter mile pass if they have them on, but the last event I went to was all 8th mile, which kind of sucked because I was trying to go 870s with the car.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go 870s, so we ended up going 560s with it.
I mean,
towards the end of the season.
Still very respectable. That's a quick car.
Yeah, and that was at 4,200 pounds.
Yeah.
So it was still full interior, heavy car.
Yeah.
And still a 6L80 behind it. So
I was actually, it's funny because there's such a stark difference between an 8th mile run and a quarter mile run, right? I mean, I was talking to a guy literally today. I think he said his car was an NA car. And I think he saw like a small shot on there. So I think he said his max was like 6 1/4, something like that. It wasn't anything crazy. It was a full NA build with a nitrous shot. And he was telling me, he's like, man, I forgive me because I don't remember exactly where he lived, but he was telling me where he is, everything's 8th mile. He's like, everything's 8th mile. He's like, and I love it because He's like, he's got a G8, and he's like, these things are heavy enough
Yep.
that you could find traction at that horsepower pretty easily with the right tire suspension setup.
Yeah.
He's like, and I'm smoking cars that are 1,000 horsepower plus because they're blowing the tires off, or they're these massive, these big turbo guys that are making a ton of power past the eighth. He's like, so sure, if we were running quarter, they would smoke me. He's like, but by the time they're full boost, he's like, now they're just playing catch up. And by the time they catch up to me, the eighth is over. You know, he's like, so he's like, I love it because he's like, I'm able to beat these massive power guys. He's like, and he's like, bro, he's like, I talk shit like I own a Bugatti. You know, he's like, I'm out there just running my mouth. He's like, because I know, you know, I could talk shit to one of these guys that has like a 1,000 horsepower Camaro. He's like, I'm probably gonna beat him, you know, because by the time he builds boost and by the time he gets traction, I'm already, you know, almost through the eighth.
Yep.
You know, and it's crazy because it's such a stark comparison when you go to like a quarter mile, because that same guy in that quarter mile setup would get smoked. He'd get toasted, you know, but you know, it's crazy. That's why I love when I see these guys that, you know, and it makes sense why a lot of the grudge guys, they go eighth because, you know, they're able to build the car for low end and just hammer it and just get traction and just go, you know, and just kill it. Not to get too much into that. So tell me about your build. I know you've had a bunch of different setups, right? Or not setups, but I know you've done a lot of stuff on your own too, right?
Well, yeah. So the car was built like I probably did 85%. And then, but that was with like the help of some friends, like trying to point me in the right direction. So my background's paint and body. So anything mechanical fabrication stuff, like I was okay with like jumping and doing, but it wasn't something I did every single day. But, yeah, I had a couple buddies that like pointed me in the right direction and like, helped with welding, and the guy that tunes the motor side of it, he does 100% of the motor side, and then Justin does the trans side. So, but my car, like I said, it's a stock bottom end deal. Has like I said, 162,000 miles on it. It's got the stock 821 heads. We did upgrade the LS to the LS3 valves in it, because we planned on pushing it past like 8,200 RPMs, but we haven't been able to get there. So, anyways, and it's got a BTR 660 springs, titanium retainers, and then stock intake, stock throttle body. It's got a set of 210 Bosch 210s in it on the factory ECU. So that's taken some work to get them to work with the stock ECU. And then for the turbo setup, it has straight out of the box Borg 366s cast wheels. It's out of the box 360 cast wheels, and I picked those up for $1,000 for the pair. Shipped to my shop, and couldn't beat it. And then
it's one of those deals, man. You can't.
I pieced together the turbo kit, so it's got Teal 44 millimeter wastegates, and then it's got two 50 millimeter Teal blow off valves, and I think with piping and everything, intercoolers, because it's got a set of frozen boost intercoolers on it. I think I'm into the whole like complete hot side, cold side, turbos, everything. It was like $3,200. So
wow, man, that's
I probably have
that's a low price for a lot of power.
I tell people I probably have $6,000 into the motor and turbo, like, probably 45, $5,000 to be honest, because I was like probably 15.
You have the support system to help you put it all together once you have it. That's key. You know, buying the parts obviously is only half the battle, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing a custom setup like what you're doing now, to have the people with the expertise to be able to put it all together. And on top of that, I mean, the tuning, you know, hats off to your tuner. He's obviously doing an awesome job, and hats off to Justin. Shout out to Justin and Brandy over at Asylum. They're awesome. You know, to be able to put all that together and like I said, have the you know, the support system to be able to say, okay, now we have all the parts. Let's weld the pipe. Let's fit the hot side. Let's mount the turbos. Let's do this. Let's do that. And be able to actually pull it off is is a whole nother setup. I mean, so many guys don't have that capability or that at their fingertips where they could say, "Hey guys, I need help with this." You know?
That's where that's where I'm pretty fortunate at that because we also have a guy here in Michigan that my tuner talks to on a regular basis who has the stock bottom end motor record or stock bottom end record with obviously with a turbo, but he's been 450s and 720s with a stock bottom end 5.3. And so it's nice to have those
5.3s are something scary, man.
Yeah. Yep. So
those 5.3s, dude, they are serious.
It's nice to have, like I said, you have very few people who can do it all and build and everything, but they still have people that are going to help them get there. And that if you can't take these caliber cars, and I'm not saying mine's like mine's anything, but you can't go 8s and 7s and 6s and stuff with not having help. It's very hard. You gotta have a good support system to be able to go there. So I've been fortunate enough.
I think that's very important to mention, because a lot of guys, they get stuck on this mindset of, it doesn't count unless I did it all myself, unless I built it, built, not bought, and blah, 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 blah. And that's a great saying. And that's a great mode of operation to say, I want to have my hands in it. I want to get my hands dirty. But, nothing worth building was done by one person. Right. There's nobody out there, who is running, forget top tier. I mean, you take it down a couple tiers. I mean, even in like the top 30 of any class, there's nobody who's doing it all by themselves 100%. There's always got.
And to be competitive at what they're doing, they have a team behind them that's helping them. So
they have to. I mean, because think about it. I mean, and you see it at the track. I mean, even if you got these guys, they go to the track, they blow a rear. It's not they're not jacking the car up and doing it themselves. They got a team that runs out and helps them out. They have guys there that help. I mean, it's not, and I think that's what I love, and that's what I've always loved about the car community as a whole. Not just our little corner of it, but just the car community. Like you find guys through, just through commonality of being able to say, hey, for example, let's just say, using, just a school of thought here, like, oh, I'm really good at painting. Right? I'm a painter. Okay. And the guy over there, he does metal fab, and, my buddy over here, he's a parts supplier. My guy over there has an install shop, and this guy, and you all meet at, a meet or the track or something, but you have that common core interest that, you build these friendships and you build these relationships that you all help each other out. Yeah. And that's what I always loved about the car community, because it is, keyword community, right? I mean, people are willing to help each other out. And I know there's always that grudge, so to speak. Like everyone always has like an axe to grind, or who's subconsciously racing who, or who's trying to beat whose time. At the end of the day, it's like, we're all doing this to have a good time, and it's a hobby for all of us. And, I love when I see guys who are even at odds with each other trying to help each other out. Like, you could have your little grudges or whatever, but at the end of the day, without a support system, without the community behind you, you're really kind of just on your own. You're never going to get anything accomplished.
Yeah. And that's one nice thing that, like, even with our small community, like the people that are pushing these platforms to go low 9s and 8s, and even like naturally aspirated, like I feel like it's a tight knit group only because we're doing something with a 4-door car that people are getting a Mustang or whatever and throwing an LS in it and going as fast as they can. But we're sticking with a platform. And like when you go to like LS Fest and Texas 2K and Streetcar Takeover and stuff like that, like we're usually all pretty close, like all pitted next to each other, to where we're all pretty much helping each other out. And like with George and Lex and Jordan and Skylar and Emily and all them, it like when we went down to LS Fest, like it was first time at LS Fest where we had 4 G8s all like in 8s. Like it was the first time that's ever happened. So that was cool to be a part of, because we had John there and we had Nielsen with his white G8.
Right.
But it's cool to see because, especially in the drag racing community, like everyone and anyone's willing to help you out. Because like a couple years ago at LS Fest, the first pass I blew a diff. Well, Lex was starting to like pick up like stock G8 diffs to take them back because one of their friends there was looking for them. Well, they ended up talking their buddy into selling me one because I blew mine right off the first pass. And then I just I've met them through Facebook and stuff, but it was the first time meeting them. But Josh Bowen and Jason, they're from Maryland.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, bring the car up to our pit area and we'll get it knocked out.
Yeah.
So I literally like got the car up there. We had it fixed in about an hour and a half, had everything going, and I was back up and running.
Yeah.
Granted, it didn't last too long because of what I was trying to do, but everybody was willing to throw in and have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, the group we have, everybody wants to have a good time. They want to see everybody meet their goals.
Yeah.
And if everybody gets a PB that weekend, everybody's happy.
Yeah, everybody wins.
So that's, like I said, that's the nice thing about the little G8 community, drag racing community that we have is like, when you're at the track, if you need something, like, let me know, I'll take care of it. Or if someone needs a tool, hey, just come ask. So it's been really, that's the nice thing about like I said, the G8 community is nice and everybody's willing to help out, and it makes the experience where you don't want to quit.
Yeah,
pretty much.
No, I agree. And, I see that, really anywhere you go, where there's really even more than one or two G8s, somehow they find each other. Right. And somehow because you stand out. I mean, in a sea of two-door sports cars, we stand out. And like you said, it takes a lot, to really, to give it your all in the G8 community. It really does. And because the G8 community, I shouldn't even say the community, the G8 itself, it's a big car. It's a big, heavy car. Let's let brass tacks here. There are much better platforms to start out with if you're ready to throw some money down and go
100%. Yeah.
like that's why everybody, like you said, buy a Fox body, throw an LS in it, and turbo it, and you're call it a day. So to see people who are saying, look, I'm getting a G8 and I'm gonna make it fast and I'm gonna do the time or put the time in to get what I want out of it. That in itself is an accomplishment because that they have to know that there are better platforms to start out with.
Because they got to prepare themselves to continue to beat their head up against the wall to figure out how they can get this 4,000 plus car down the track as quick as it can.
You really are. So, you really got to be a glutton for punishment to take a G8 and say, I want to make a G8 fast car. I mean, because obviously it's doable. I mean, you're one of the guys doing it. It's definitely doable. But at the end of the day, it's like, how many times have you, like you said, yanked your hair out or busted your head up against the wall or wanted to, and those problems wouldn't even have happened in another platform. So it's like you would have never even had that issue had you chosen this avenue with a different car. So like I said, I love that about the G8 community. I really do, because it's the guys who are really into it they're into it. They're all in. That's why like I said, I mean, I wouldn't sell my car for less than 60. You wouldn't sell your car for less than 60. Why? It's an $8,000 car. Well, because it's what it means. And it also means the community, because let's be honest. I mean, you go into a Camaro community, there's only 900 million Camaros floating around, so it's like,
right.
Oh yeah, it's like when you go to a track and you see, imagine driving a Camaro, you go to a track, you're not going to feel like you have some kind of connection to the other Camaro guys because there's 1,000 of them there, but you go to a track that you've never been to before and you see a G8 in the corner that you've never met before. I guarantee you by the end of the night, you guys are chopping it up, because you're boys now,
That's it. That's how it is. That's how it is over at LS Fest every year.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of G8s last year.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised at how, but
I was there. And it sucks. The booth placement we had was kind of shit, but yeah, like I was, I had actually walked over by your guys' cars a couple times, but you guys were all like, yeah, when I got there, the only person I saw was Emily. I didn't see anybody else the one time. And the second time I had gone over, I didn't see anybody, but I didn't even get a chance to see any of you guys any of you guys race, because they had us tucked away.
Yeah.
We couldn't even, like, I couldn't get away from the booth because I couldn't even hear on their intercom, like when they were lining up the tracks. The only announcements I could hear was the drift announcement. That was it. So I was like, okay, well, I guess they're drifting now. When are they gonna do it? And then when I would hear the cars, I'm like, I don't have the time to go up and just stand around wait for the G8 guys to show, So I was a little let down. Because Lex had come over. She's like, yeah, I just went. I'm like, oh, damn it, dude. Like, I wanted to see it. But yeah, it's a good time. And then you always get like, Adam. Adam always shows up with Ace and brings that tray. Yep. I mean, man, he's always a good time to hang out with.
This was the first year I was able to meet Adam and Chris and all them. And like I said, every person I've met in the G8 community has been super cool, willing to help out if need be. Always willing to turn a wrench. So
yeah,
that's like I said, that's a nice thing about this community.
Yeah.
So and also the
not to cut you off.
No, you're good.
That guy Chris DeCourt.
Yeah.
And Adam, man, they are like a wealth of information. And if you ever want to cut weight, talk to Chris DeCourt.
Yep.
He will tell you. He knows what those little nubby things on the side of the tire were. He's like, cut those things off. You'll save 4 ounces.
Yep. Yeah, that like the little group that we're in, like he's always like, well, if you do this, this, and this, you can get this weight out. I'm like, all right. So, which has been helpful because I'm trying to get my car down to a certain weight to help, because if you can get it lighter, it's easier on parts in the long run, especially running quarter mile. Right. To where when your car's so heavy, it's putting so much strain on the drivetrain to haul this 4,200 pound car. And so, like his things have helped me cut weight out of the car. So I don't know what it weighs right now, but I'm trying to get it down to like 3,400 pounds, and it's taken a lot to get there.
Keep cutting.
Yeah,
keep cutting.
Yep. That's the big reason. I decided to go solid rear axle over the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the process of putting a 4 9-inch in it, but there's a couple companies that make a bolting kit that bolt in this factory location with some modifications that you need.
Right.
And with me, I didn't want the bolt-in option, so we're actually making, me and a couple buddies are making the 4-link mounts weld to the frame rails. So it's not a bolt-in option because I didn't want the extra weight of the added bars that I didn't need. So
that you needed to make it bolt-in.
Right, exactly. So Quick Performance built the rear end for it. And I'm, like I said, it's talking to a couple people, they've dropped 200-300 pounds just going solid rear axle. So, and I've kind of,
I see a lot of the big guys are headed that way.
And I've kind of went a little farther than that, because with it not being a bolt-in style, all those little, like the IRS mounting points, I've totally removed. Mm-hmm. Like they're not there anymore. So like out of the rear end, I probably cut out 20, 25 pounds just in brackets and like the brackets, some of the support like beams that hold like in between. Like I've cut all that stuff out of it to where I'm like I said, I'm hoping to get down to 3,400 pounds, and that's asking a lot to get there and still be full interior.
It is, because
I still haul.
And still be
full exactly. Because I still haul. Like I take my kids out in the car. Like we go and like we'll go to the grocery store. Like I do dumb stuff with the car still. So like I still go to the ice cream. Because I got 4 boys and they're always like, "Hey, Dad, can we take the white car out?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So we'll take the car. Like we'll drive to car shows around town, stuff like that. They get a huge kick out of it, and that's again another reason why I went with the G8 instead of going to lighter platforms, because I wanted to spend time with the family, and they all love cars. They were like, "Hey, let's go get in the car." So it's been the platform's been good for me. Again, I'm hitting my head against the wall multiple times trying to get it to go fast. Because I think the last 6 outings with the car, I've broke that weekend, and I've had to fix it and get it back running again. So it's
I feel like that's pretty par for the course. So when you get to this type of horsepower that you're at, shit breaks, man. Yep. Shit breaks.
And I'm the type of person.
There's no way around it. You're gonna break something. You can't go that fast.
And I'm type of the person to where I'm like, I'm not fixing it until I break it. So like when I first starting to go nines with it, I broke the axles. Well, they were stock, so I didn't expect them to last very long. But then at LS Fest, I was like, screw it, we're gonna try to go low nines at LS Fest. And so I turned the RPM up to like 4,000 RPM, trying to launch this thing on stock axles. Stock axles, stock diff. Well, it blew the diff, took the one-piece drive shaft that I just bought for it, and destroyed the axles all in one thing. So I was like, well, it's time to actually upgrade all this stuff. So after I upgraded it, I never had an issue other than with the 6L80 and the power that you're making, especially a turbo car, you want to leave in second. Well, I'm still new to like staging the car and everything, to where I left in first on accident and ended up bending the drive shaft. Yeah. So then, and I tell people, when you want to go fast, every time you go faster, there's more stuff that you have to remember.
Oh yeah.
Because if you don't remember that stuff, it could go totally sideways real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when you're staging the car, you want to make sure like certain things are in certain areas.
Right.
So like for me, I for a while there, I had a piece of tape that went like on my dash that says leave in second, because I couldn't get myself to remember because my adrenaline was running.
Your adrenaline's going, you're checking everything, and
and you're still expecting something stupid to go when you're going down or when you're making a pass.
Right.
So it's like I said, and now that I've been going, like the next step was to get into the eights. Well, for the car to go eights, you got to go 150 plus mile an hour, to where I was like, all right, I'm going to need a chute. Yep. So when I finally went 152, I was like, all right, time to put a chute on it.
Yeah.
Well, as the first time I made a pass, I'm like, oh shit, like I gotta pull a chute because we're going this fast.
Yeah.
And it's another thing that added to remember.
Yep.
So it takes more repetition, but like I said, the faster you go, the more stuff you have to remember.
Oh, of course.
So and like this year with going solid rear axle and getting weight out of the car, I'm also building. I got a buddy of mine that's building a Dart 388 for the car.
Oh, okay.
And the motor, I built it to where it should hold 2,000 horse. I don't want it to I'm overbuilding it,
of course,
to hold at like 1,500. And when you get to this horsepower level, you like reliable isn't really there.
No, there's no such thing as reliable.
But you want to, yeah. So I want it to live at 1,500 as reliable as it can.
Right. No, that makes sense.
I know there's a lot of factors and things can go sideways.
Yeah.
But I've gotten to the point now to where I'd rather overbuild it and then have it at a certain point and not have to worry about as much.
Right.
Because right now we're making just shy of 1,200 horse on a stock bottom end. So I mean, every pass is like, is it going to pop?
Yeah.
Is it going to blow up? What's going to happen?
You're waiting for it.
To where like I was so worried about I ended up putting a belly pan on the car. So like if it did pop, a lot of the oil would get caught.
Yeah, at least you'll control over the track.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I said, the goal 7s for this year, as long as everything falls into place. But I also know it was a struggle to get 8s for me, and it's going to be a struggle to go 7s, because the faster you go, the more work you have to put in. If you're not willing to put in the work, you're not going to get there. It's not one of those things where you build this car and the first outing you go, you're going to go that number. No, it's not going to happen. No.
And even if the power is there, you're not going to go that number. Even if you have all the power in the world, you don't have the seat time.
Yeah, you don't have the seat time, and you're still figuring out the chassis. And that's the other thing. With going solid rear axle, it's totally different than an IRS car.
It's going to feel completely different.
So that's going to be a learning curve too.
Yep.
Because like I said, it took me 3 years in my car to go high eights.
Right. Learning the car that you had driven for years before that.
Yeah. And to where, like, I've talked to Justin about, because not a lot of people are sticking with the 6L80s
turbo
to even go 8s, which people are going turbo. I mean, right now there's 4. I think there's 4 people that are 6L80 still that are in the 8s.
Yeah.
And the rest are turbo 400 cars.
Yeah.
And
there's a couple more. We just they don't talk too loud, but they're out there.
Yeah, they might be out there, but to where now people are I say now, but like Stanley and Rick and Adam and all them are starting to figure out ways to go aftermarket ECU,
right,
and still keep this 6L80. Because the biggest reason I haven't went to a turbo 400 yet is because I still drive the car a crap ton on the street.
Right. So you want that,
and I didn't want that
daily drivability,
Exactly. Yep. And I also plan on the next goal for Be the Car would be like a drag and drive event. So like drag week or sick week or something like that, to where you're driving your car to each track. And like a couple buddies, they have to run a certain tall tire for them to get down to like 2,200 RPM, 2,300 RPM, to where in 6th gear with 275s out back, I'm at like 1,800 RPM on the highway at 70 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And it's not struggling at all. So that's the big reason why I stuck with 6L80. And like, obviously Justin's another big reason why, because
he could tune the hell out
before, exactly. Before that, I was looking at turbo 400s, and I hit up Justin, and the way I'm fortunate enough for Justin, because when the first year I had mine out, like, he hit me up and was like, "Hey, I see you're struggling with the 6L80." I was like, "Well, the tuner that is tuning the motor side, he doesn't have a lot of knowledge. He didn't have a lot of knowledge with the 6L80s,
right? Because
they can be very temperamental." And he was like, "Hey, I can, if you're willing, like, I'm willing to help you out." And I've never met Justin, like, prior to that, like, never talked to him and stuff. And he hit me up. He was like, "Hey, I can do this," and I was like, "Yeah, cool, sweet." And that right there made me stick with the 6L80, because I was like, all right, the following year, the trans are getting shipped down to him. He's building everything, and he's going to tune it. And it's been, with the built trans, it's been 2 years now.
Yeah.
And it's never been out of the car since.
Yeah. Justin,
like,
Justin's a great dude. He really is. Have you met him personally, or?
Yeah. I met him down at PRI a couple years back. And then I went to Texas 2K in March of 2022, and I ended up stopping by his shop down there as I was going over there. And he allowed me to use the shop because I was coming from the cold, and to run in Texas 2K, you needed water in your system.
Yeah.
Well, I had coolant in the system because I didn't want it to freeze.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, come down. So he allowed me to use the shop, knock that out. Yeah, I'm super fortunate for Justin.
Yeah.
For this, like I said, the 6L80 stuff. And he's, again, probably the big reason why I'm like, okay, let's try to push this into the 7s.
Yeah. And
it's funny. 6L80.
Yeah. Because, I have that conversation with quite a few times, about the 6L80, the 6L80. And the way I say, there's, you could throw a rock and hit somebody who knows how to tune an LS engine very well. I mean, the amount of people out there who know how to tune an LS engine is damn near infinite, right? I mean, there's a good LS tuner in almost every city in America. But the 6L80, to find somebody who knows how to tune the 6L80 correctly is not so easy.
Right.
And I see a lot of people who when they start making power, I get a lot of phone calls when people start making power, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to a turbo 400. My builder or my tuner told me to go to a turbo 400." And I'm like, "Oh, what are you making?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm making 800." And I'm like, and my tuner told me, or my builder told me, that the 6L80 just can't handle that. And I'm like, I'm like, look, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not going to talk shit on anybody, but just like a doctor, man, get a second opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, talk to somebody who might know a little bit more about the 6L80, because you know how people are, tuners and builders, and really just anybody in any profession, right? A lot of people have an issue with pride, right? And being able to say, oh no, that's out of my scope.
Yeah.
That's above what I can do or my knowledge base. And they don't want to seem less than or cast any doubt on themselves. But in reality, I mean, we all know the people who know that a 6L80 can handle a ton of power if built correctly and tuned correctly.
Right.
Unfortunately, when you hear all these horror stories about people popping trannies, and then they're talking like the 6L80 is a garbage trans, and you're like, are you sure? Because there's people out there putting, like way into the 4-digit horsepower in these things. No problem.
Yeah.
So
I got a lot of people now. They're like, well, you should probably go Turbo 400 with the power you plan on putting. I'm like, no, that's another thing to where like I'm willing to pound my head against the wall multiple times to get this 6L80 in the 7s.
We'll
like that's where I'm at. I will go 7s with a 6L80 before I'm done. Like I know anything faster than that, I probably need a Turbo 400. Yeah. But
I might blow it on the 7 pass, but I will do it on the 7.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So yeah, there's only 3 people that I recommend for 6L80 stuff, and that's obviously Rick and Adam. I know Justin will only tune it, remote tune stuff, if he builds the trans,
which is
I understand
good mode of operation for sure.
Yeah, because I just saw he's going to where like the only cars they're touching are cars that they built.
Look,
because they got tired of getting on the dyno and having all these issues because someone
else put their hands
worked on this car prior to them. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
I can't blame him for that.
Absolutely not. I saw his post and I was happy that he posted it. Because a lot of times when you got to imagine from his perspective, and I have a lot of friends that own and run shops, right? So I hear from them firsthand.
Yeah.
These guys get a car in, and the car's already got work done to it, whether it be something minor or whether it be it's a full build already when they get it, right? Regardless what it is, when the car comes in and somebody else has had their hands in it, you really never know, and there's no way to really know what has happened to that car, what parts were used, if it was done correctly, without disassembling the entire thing and putting it back together. And the customer is not going to pay for you to, the labor hours to disassemble his build.
Yeah, they're not. They're not going to want to do diagnostic and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so many times too. I mean, you get where the owner of the car is not even aware of everything that was done. I mean, I have people that call me up and say, "Oh, I need a converter for my car," and I'm like, "Oh, what cam do you have?" I don't know. I think it's a Texas Speed this or that or a BTR this, and I'm like, "How do you not know?" Well, when I bought it, the guy, I'm like, he didn't have a cam card with it. Like, he didn't save any of the documentation. They're like, "No, he had nothing." So imagine being a shop and the guy comes in and says, "I need a converter." Well, for what? Oh, I think it's a Texas Speed stage. What do you mean you think it's a Texas? So. And then also you have so many people that are not mechanics or not even that mechanically inclined who buy parts and try to install it themselves. And then they go to a shop when it's not working out and they go, and I've seen it myself where they go, "Oh yeah, I had a builder do it." And you look at the work and you're like, "No, you didn't." Because a builder wouldn't let them out. There's not a builder out there that would let this leave a shop like this,
I mean,
well, yes, that is true.
I've seen some,
I take that back. I've seen some sketchy work, but
exactly. You do have some of those shops out there that hack some stuff together. Yeah. I mean, they're not good shops, but they're shops.
Yeah.
But
I guess anyone could pay rent and call themselves a shop, right?
True. And people only remember the last person who touched it.
Exactly.
For the majority of the time.
Exactly.
Like I got a buddy who runs a stereo place, installing stereos, and he'll get people come in and like, "Oh yeah, I installed it," and they take the power wire and not find a hole or anything to run it nicely, and they're like putting it on the other side of their seal for their door. So every time you're shutting the door, you're cutting into that, and it's like, why did my car catch on fire? Well, you got this power wire grinding out every time.
You see how this is around the middle? It's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So yeah,
You're absolutely right, and you see it. You see people on Facebook and stuff. They'll blast a shop, like a shop did bad work,
yeah,
and you're absolutely right, because they blame the last person to touch it, which is why the move that Justin made to say, hey, guess what? Unless we did the work, we're not doing the tuning. That
right.
that is, while on the surface it might look like, oh, he might lose some customers. Those are the headache customers. Those are the customers you don't want anyway.
Those are the customers you don't want. Yeah.
Because there's a reason
Yep.
that they can't go to that other shop anymore, right? There's a reason that they left that shop and now they're your customer, because either they realize that other shop sucks or they're the ones that suck. Either way, you don't want them as a customer.
Yeah. Yep.
But
and I feel in today's society, like me working in the body shop, like 10, 15 years ago, people would drop their cars off and not hassle you, not call you, not nothing.
Yeah.
Like call me when to come pick up the car.
Yeah.
To where now you got people every single day. Hey, is my car done? Hey, is my car done? What's this issue? What's this issue? And it's same for the motorsports world.
Yeah.
You got customers saying, hey, I need my car now.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we're waiting on this part or this part, because it's hard to get parts now.
Yeah.
Because of everything. They're like, I don't know when this part's gonna, like, it took, like, I bought a crank and rods for mine and literally waited 8-9 months for them and still didn't get them, and got lucky enough to find someone that had already had them who was changing their build up.
Right.
So where I bought it from them.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you have to understand it's not the same old 10, 15 years ago to where you buy it now and it's going to show up on your doorstep 2-3 days. But it's all your fault, Joe, because you ship out so quick.
No, I'll be honest with you, man.
Thanks, Joe.
I blame, I hate to say it, but I blame Amazon for a lot of it, right? I mean, everybody has this Amazon notion now where it's like, oh, well, if I pay, it should be on my door in 2 days. And, we get it too, obviously. I mean, you see a lot of the posts where people are like, oh man, Joe, I bought this last night and it showed up today. Now that's great. And I'm happy I could do that. And there's, it was very methodical the way that I planned everything out in order to do that. That wasn't something that just wasn't luck, but at the same time, there's also, hundreds of products on my sites that are not that way, and I get people, who just expect it. And I even go as far as, like, for example, like, exhaust and wheels, pretty much anything hard, like big metal items are very hard to get. Right. So wheels, exhaust, drive shafts, axles, stuff like that. So, I even have on my site is like on certain products where you actually have to click. It won't even let you add it to cart until you click a button that says like lead time warning. This could take 14 to 16 weeks, Right. And even I've had people order something on a Friday and hit me up on a Tuesday and be like, oh yeah, when's this going to ship? And I'm like, you clicked the button that said it takes up to 12 weeks. Like it's been really, it's only been 2 days because you ordered it on a Friday night and it's Tuesday. So the weekend doesn't count.
Right.
And
the weekend won't count.
No. I mean, it might count for Amazon, but they damn near bought the post office. It doesn't count for me, so,
Right.
So for, so I could see, on the other end of it, how shops are, everyone is dealing with stuff like that. Everyone's dealing with the, I want it now. And one of the things I noticed, I'm sure you've noticed it. And, if you have any friends that have any kind of shops, you've noticed it for sure. Shops are booked. Shops are booked way out now.
Yeah.
I mean, people are building right now.
And you would think with like COVID shutting everything down, like it would slow down, but I never took a day off during COVID. No. We were slammed every single day.
Same.
People were bringing their cars in, getting work down. Now we're starting to see the after effect of like the big corporate people shutting down, like Denso and like GM and all them, like especially with Honda getting parts now for things because they're trying to play catch up.
Right.
And we don't know, like we waited like 7 months for an airbag for a 14 CRV. Like you would think you'd get an airbag. No, we just couldn't find one.
Yeah, I dealt here too. I mean, parts that I was tripping over a couple years ago. There were parts that I honestly, ARP was a big one for me. There were parts for ARP like head bolts and head studs that even like coil or coil location bracket, the coil pack brackets and valve cover valve cover bolts. I never really kept more than one or two in stock. I don't sell a ton of them, and they were always readily available. You were tripping over them. COVID hit, and suddenly I got a backlog of like 30, 40 orders, and I have 0 ETA, and I'm like, holy crap, what's going on? I had ordered
those right there.
Yeah,
Joe, those right there. 8 months to find them because they had to be, because I'm running a dart block.
Right. Oh, you need.
I had to have ones, dart main studs.
Yeah.
I needed dart ones to where up until probably a couple weeks ago, I couldn't find them.
Yeah. Yeah.
To where, and that's the thing. If you do find them, you better buy them now, because if you don't buy them now, you're going to be waiting another 8-9 months to be able to get them.
Well, and that's what a lot of people don't realize too is there was such a backlog, and there still is such a backlog on parts that you have to figure a company like ARP, right? They have probably 1,500, 2,000 SKUs, different products that they manufacture. So for a company like that, you needed Dart LSX, main stud bolts, right? Or whatever it was, whatever you needed, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's one SKU, and that might, for argument's sake, let's say that's the bottom 5% earner, of their inventory, of their SKU list. They sell, they sell less than 5% of their products sold are those bolts. Well, now when it comes time to do runs, you think that's getting the attention? No, that's way back. They got to do the LS3, the LS, the third gen and fourth gen head bolts, because they sell a ton of those. They got to do studs because they sell a ton of those. The ARP 2000 studs, they got to do all those. They're big sellers before they get to the little guys. And then when they get to the little guys, they're not going to run they're not going to run a production run of 100,000 of those. They're going to make a couple hundred of them, and then they're going to move back to the big guys.
And if they do make a run of them, you have companies that all they do is build engines, like Thompson Motorsports.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to get those head studs and main studs before a person like me. Like, it sucks to say that,
but it's the truth. Yeah,
they're buying that stuff in bulk.
Right.
You're not just getting a set of head studs or a set of main studs. Like, they're buying 30, 40, like whatever's on the shelf, they're buying.
Right.
Just like Callie's there was buying everything and anything because that's what they needed.
Yeah.
And they were the first ones to get it because they're willing to give you an open checkbook.
Right.
To get all of your bolts and stuff.
Yeah.
To where you're stopping someone from spending $500 to get those stuff when someone's giving you 20, 30 grand.
Yeah. And it's
and
for them too, you got to realize, a lot of these companies, there's so many things at play, right? There's so many moving parts. So, for example, let's say I order, I order 100 sets of head bolts, right? We'll just use head bolts for example, because that's what we're talking about. But let's say I order 100 set of head bolts, and you order 1 set of head bolts, right? It's not so much that my order is more important than your order in ARP's end of it. It's or whoever is making them. Really what it comes down to is if they make a run of, let's say they make a run of 100 units or 1,000 units, right? And you got 5 or 6 guys that are ordering a couple hundred at a time. And then you got one guy who's waiting on a drop ship order that he ordered from Summit, ships from manufacturer, and he's waiting on 1, right?
Yeah.
It's not that to them, it's not that your order is more important, or less important. It's just that when they're packing these things and they're putting them on a pallet or they're putting them they're boxed them up. When they box them up, if let's say they had exactly 100 units, I ordered 100 and you ordered 1, right? It's not that they would say, well, Joe's more important than Chris. They would just say, well, if we send this one to Chris, right, that means that box or that pallet with 100 of them has to sit in our warehouse until we make a whole nother run to finish that order. Right.
Oh, right.
And then to send Chris this one, we have to sit on these 99 that we can't ship out to anybody else because they're Joe's. Right. So we can either send it to Joe so he has them, and maybe we could let Chris know and say, hey, Chris, it's going to be another 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 6 months, but we just shipped 100 pieces off to Summit, or we just shipped 100 pieces off to Joe.
Right.
Rather than send Chris 1, and now we have 99 pieces sitting on a shelf taking up space for our inventory that we're making
right.
that we can't ship because we had to ship
Yep.
that one off to somebody else. So I get it from both sides because I've been on both sides of it, you know.
Yeah.
And it sucks as a customer where you're like, man, like, you know, you feel kind of like, well, you know, I guess you don't care about the little guy because I only ordered one and this guy ordered 100. Well, it's not that. We have 75 pieces of his order waiting, and you only ordered one. And yeah, it sounds easy enough to just yank one off of his and send it to you, but we can't because he already bought and paid for that. Just like you bought and paid for yours, you spent 200. He spent 20 grand.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how would you feel if it was your 20 grand and we're saying we're not going to ship your order because Chris Merry ordered one piece? You know what I'm saying? So it's,
exactly.
It goes both ways.
They're going to cancel it pretty much.
Yeah. And it sucks for both sides. It really does. And we ran into that a lot with a lot of things, exhaust and everything else, because we try to order all that stuff in bulk. We run weekly reports as to like what the hot items are, what's trending for the week or the month. And we try to keep those items in stock, make sure that we have enough of those to fulfill. But then we run into the same situation where I'm like, oh, I want to order 10 of these or 100 of these or 15 of these, whatever the number might be. And they're like, all right, well, we have 2,000 of them that are on order and we only have a run of 1,500 being made. So you're kind of shit out of luck. You have to wait. Just get on the list and wait. Oh, by the way, we want the money today. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
exactly.
Advance,
we need you to hold it. So, yep. It's like I said, and it comes back to where you have these customers that want their stuff now.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do your job. There's no way I could do your job just because it would be hard for me not to tell someone off, like go somewhere else. And you being the middleman between, like, because you're an enthusiast too, like you're still buying parts for yourself.
Right.
But like you said, you might buy a part, but then someone buys the same part. You're like, well, maybe I'll have to get rid of mine to fulfill that order just because of the type of person you are.
I have a dwindling parts bucket back there of my own shit that somebody orders. Like I said, I said on the last podcast, I think I was with Rick or with Nielsen and them, where like I had literally like an entire rack back there of all my stuff that was going on my cars. And people called up and like, oh yeah, I need these brakes, and I order them, or I look in the inventory. It says, oh, you got 2, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We got 2 in stock, but they're my 2. Right. And then I'm like, I don't realize that. And I'm like, shit. All right, well, let me try to order them. And I try to order them, and it's on a 6-month back order. I'm like, all right, just send them mine. I'll wait the 6 months.
Right, exactly.
But I would rather do.
That's why I said I couldn't do your job. I couldn't do your job.
I couldn't do yours.
There's no way.
So it works out.
Like for someone in the parts area and like the G8 community being, like I said, they only made 30,000 plus of these cars.
Right.
It's a small group.
Yeah.
But you try to bring new products to like the G8. It's got to be stressful. It's like
it is.
There's, like I said,
it is, because
and it's hard. Sometimes it's hard not to bring work stuff to home.
Oh well, yeah.
To where like you get like when you leave work, you're probably stressed.
I'll be honest with you, man,
because you're trying to fill all these orders.
I work at home too, man. I leave here usually around like 6 o'clock at night, and I go home. I spend some time with my wife and my kids, and then when the kids go to sleep at like 8:30, I hang out with my wife till about 10:30 when she gets tired, and then I'm on the computer till like 1:30 in the morning every night. Just because there's never, like I tell my wife, there's never an end. It's never, I own my own business, so it's never it's never like, oh, my work's done, I'll just finish it tomorrow. It's like, no, there's always something that needs to be done,
Yep.
But, for me, a lot of times I enjoy very much, quasi being part of other people's builds.
Yeah.
Right. Like I like knowing that, it makes me feel good. Like when someone is like, yo, I ordered this part that I needed, and Joe actually had it in stock, and I was able to get it in a couple days. And then like, whether they shout me out or not, I don't care if they even, go on Facebook and make a big, I don't care about that. I care knowing that you needed a part, I had it, and I was able to get it to you fast, and it's a good feeling, but at the same time, a lot of times it leaves me like, well, I don't have stuff for my own car, but it's whatever. I deal with a lot of people, who are in that mindset of like, well, I ordered it today, it should have shipped today, I should have it tomorrow, kind of thing. And it does get hard sometimes because I try to be as active in the community as possible, so people realize I'm just a dude, man. I'm not some big corporate company. I'm not Summit. I'm not Jags. I don't have 200 people working for me.
Right.
I have two guys up here that help me out with the orders and talking to customers, and I have one guy in the back that does all the shipping and receiving. It's really, it's just me, man. It's just me and a couple other guys that are chugging away at this. And me personally, I try to be as active in the community as possible, which takes me out of the work end of it,
right?
Where I'm able to talk on the phone and stuff, because I'm trying to be on Facebook and I'm trying to talk to people who have legitimate issues they need to work out now,
right?
So I'm pulled in a lot of different directions, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I learned a long time ago, I don't have the capability of working for somebody else. I
don't blame you.
I don't have the personality. I don't have the personality for it, man. Like I could sit here and bullshit with somebody all day, man. But when somebody is in a position of authority, and I don't know what it is, man. In my head, if you're an authority figure, even if you're telling me to do something that is well within your right to tell me, I take it as an abuse of authority. I'm like, I don't think so, man. That's not how this works, But
yeah.
But in reality, that's exactly how it works. I just have a what some people might consider a problem with authority. But let's get back. I want to get back to your car, right? So, so what made you go with the teal? Because I personally love it, and I know that you mentioned recently that you might be. Are you changing the colors? Because I saw that you put your wheels up for sale. You might be swapping around, or
I put the wheels up for sale because with going on a solid rear axle, the wheels won't fit. So because I shortened the rear end, so I went from a 7.5 inch back spacing to a 3.5 inch back spacing. So that's the big reason why the wheels were up for sale. But the reason, I don't know, even though the G8s are kind of a small niche, like there's a lot of white G8s. And so I was like, what can I do to like just stand out a little bit? Like I'm okay with being out there. Like my first car, I painted like a fuchsia pink color just to be different.
Right.
And so like, I'm not afraid to do that. And so I was like, well, I want something that's like not too overboard. Like I didn't want to go teal everywhere. Like I didn't want to have the whole engine teal or something like that. I just wanted small accents that were teal. And so I literally, a buddy I know, he owns a shop down in Missouri, and he had painted his turbo housing, his cold side housing, red. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And me being painter for 14 years, I was like, well, I can do that. I said, if it's something I can do, I'm going to try to do it. But I didn't want to pay someone to powder coat it. And I didn't know with the temperatures how hot it gets in the engine bay, if it affected it. So I was like, he had.
That's what I was just thinking too. I'm like,
and he painted it. And I was like, well, I said, have you had any issues? He's like, no. I was like, all right. So I went ahead and like my valve covers are painted teal, and they've been like that for the last 3 years, and they don't peel, they haven't popped or anything like that. But I'm a big blue fan, and so instead of, I was getting ready to paint my car like the opulent blue of the CTSVs. That was originally what the
gorgeous color.
Yeah, that was originally what the car was going to go. And with how busy I was, I couldn't strip my car down and do it properly, take everything apart, blow it apart or whatever, and put it back together by the time I was done with it. So I was like, well, I'll just stick with white. And I said, I'll find a color that pops off the white. And so I ended up coming up with the the teal is actually a Ford Mustang color, Calypso green, as they call it. That's on the Fox body and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, all right, we're gonna go this route. So
it's funny. I know that color well, and I wouldn't have guessed it. I wouldn't have picked it up.
Yeah, people don't realize it's a Fox body color or a Ford color. I should say.
I never made that connection. Yeah.
Yep. So now, as the car progresses and where it's getting at, I want to do a color change on it because I want, like I said, I want it to pop. Like when you go to these drag strips, there might be 4, 5, 6 white G8s there. Well, how do you stand out? Like me and Lex, for a while there, me and Lex's car, like, well, is this Lex car?
People got them mixed up.
Yeah, I got them mixed up. Like they come up to you as like, oh, this is Lex's car. I was like, no, this is my car. Thank you. And that's like that thing, like Lex's car right there. So for a while there, that's what was happening.
She's the other white G8.
Yeah, she's the other white fast G8. So to where like her, they're like, well, where's the Teal turbos at? Well, that's Chris's car. That's over there. So that was the nice thing about the Teal, because you could tell them apart.
Right.
But like, again, I didn't want to do it overboard. I didn't want too much Teal to where it like overpopulated the white or whatever. But sure. I think the next thing I do, I really want to paint the car purple, and then leave the Teal accents. I think they go
teal and purple look good together.
I think it pop pretty good. But again, it comes down with I'm so busy that I don't know if I have the time to tear my car apart like that and do everything, because for me to do it right, I would want to paint the engine bay, paint the door jambs, paint the inner trunk, stuff like that. So that's probably another year or two away, just because we're doing so much with the car this year. We're doing the solid rear axle swap, and then we're actually going to tube the front end of my car. So like everything from strut towers forward is getting chopped off and get chromoly tubing bent up for it. So I have a tubular stub frame and all that stuff. Again, trying to get as much weight as possible, but there's just here in Michigan, there's 4 or 5 months of downtime, but there's a lot of stuff that you're trying to fit in that 4 or 5 months to be able to be ready for race season.
4 or 5 months goes real fast.
Yeah. So between the car, side work, daily life, and day job, like I probably work on my car,
and family, and 3 kids, and
4 boys. So
4.
I got 4. Yeah, my wife's a saint. I say that to her all the time. So, but between all that stuff going on, like right now, I probably have 1-2 days a week to even mess with my car. So it's like when I do work on it, like I don't do anything else. I just straight work on it, and then it's like, well, I got this side work that pays for that stuff because
for you to work on your car.
Because the wife was like, hey, as long as bills and stuff are paid for, like as long as the housing, the kids, and they have everything they need, like you can do whatever you like want with the car. So I was like, well, my day job will pay for all that stuff, and then whatever I make on the side will pay for the race car, as I call it.
Right.
So that's and that's like I've been a single income household since probably 10 years now, only because it's cheaper for me, for the wife to stay home instead of her going to work and us paying for childcare and stuff. So the only way I've been able to do anything with the car is hustling with side work and like painting cars and motorcycle parts and stuff like that. So that's why when I tell people anybody can do it, it's just how much, like if I tell people if I can do this and get a car, like people can bust their ass and work hard enough and they could do it as well. But if you're not willing to 100%. work at it, you're not going to get anywhere. So, and that's, again, in today's society, you have people that are like, well, I want an 8-second car, and you tell them what it is to get there. Yeah. They're like, oh, I don't want to do that. So, but yeah, so that's with my car. It's just getting out, like, because obviously I have to redo the turbo system and stuff like that because we're doing the Dart 388 with a set of Frankenstein heads. It's getting a Holly low ram, but it's gonna have a sheer fab air to water intercooler in between the two to try to limit or try to free up space. So instead of having a big air to water intercooler, it's just the turbos from the cold side are gonna go right into the intake. But I'm a big fan of stock hoods, like flat hoods. Like if I can fit it under a stock hood, that's awesome. But with us going to this intake, it's like, well, I got to modify the hood, and I'm not a big fan of just cutting around the intake or whatever. Like I want it fully covered up. Like I don't want you to like. Yeah. So I'm not mad about it. It's just one of those things where like I might have to make my own, like modify my own hood the way I want it.
Yeah.
To be able to run.
How much room do you need?
So the low ram with the sheer fab is just as high as a Holly high ram. So like I'd only need another 2-3 inches
only
to be able to clear it with only 2-3 inches. But I think that'd be enough. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to end up modifying my hood and probably building a cowl style hood off mine.
Sure.
But again, this car, it's not like where it's a Mustang to where you can go online and like, hey, I want carbon fiber doors and have someone make them, or they already have them sitting on the shelves.
No, you're going to have the whole thing molded and skinned and everything. Yeah.
Show worthy. Like,
well, you know what they say, not every show car is a race car, but every race car is a show car. Right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
I mean, it could look like the biggest heap of shit. I mean, I've seen cars that were heaps of garbage, like to look at, where you look at it, you're like, that thing's a piece of shit. It's rusted over here. The paint don't match. It's got, mix match doors on it. The front window doesn't even, or the windows don't even roll up all the way. I mean, like really pieces of crap. But at the same time, if dude pops his hood, it's drawing a crowd, right? Because every race car is a show car,
Yep.
So I get that, and I think the show car aspect of it is a little more forgiving when it's a race car, right? Because people, I think inherently know, like, okay, it's a race car, so it's probably not going to be, perfect, but it doesn't have to be. It's function over form. Does the thing go fast? That's all that matters,
Yep.
But I'm getting back to what you said earlier about like the color change. I'm with you 100% because I know even like when I go anywhere where there's like a group of G8s, white is by far the most common color, or at least the most common color that I see. And maybe it's because I own a white one, so like they stand out to me. I don't know.
You see more, yeah.
Everywhere I go, every time I go somewhere, like even I go down to the extravaganza, or even just cruising around town, I feel like all the ones I see, the majority of them are white. I'm always like, damn, man, I got the most common color for this car. And I don't even know. I've never actually looked at the numbers to see what the production numbers were as far as white. But I would venture to say white's got to be the most common next.
One of the popular ones. Yeah.
I'm also I'm doing a full color change on my car as well. That's something for the same reason. I want to when I go out somewhere, I want it to stand out rather than I've always been the kind of person where I when I pull in somewhere or something, I want obviously with guys inside the community, in any car community, we don't just want the car to be fast, right? We want it to be noticeable too. We want people to know when you pull in, you want people to know it's your car, right? I mean, and you want it to look nice. I mean, otherwise, why would you paint accents teal, right? If you didn't want it,
exactly.
you didn't want to stand out, if you didn't want to draw the attention, you wouldn't have done any of that, right? So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's one of the things we're all chasing too. Is we don't just want to be functional. We also want it to look good too. So
Right.
and to stand out. Like you said, you don't want people to come up to you. I mean, look, Lex is awesome, but you don't want people to confuse the two of you. You know what I'm saying? So,
right. Yeah. So and that goes with anybody else. I mean, for me, there's things on my car that like I feel like make the car look like crap, but it's because of my car, and that's like my engine bay does not look good at all, just because it's old paint and stuff like that.
Sure.
To where like I see a lot of people that come up, oh, nice looking engine bay. I'm like, what?
Well, you're always your biggest critic, man.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So that was, like I said, that was another thing that I'll probably tackle this year. And but yeah, I'm at the point now where I'm ready for the car to be done. But I'm also like last winter, I didn't really do much because I wanted the car ready for Texas 2K.
Sure.
And there wasn't much like up here in Michigan. It snowed all the way up until I left for Texas 2K.
Oh wow.
And I didn't want to change the car so much that when I got down there, it was like a test session. Like, because when you change so much stuff and you go to an event, it's stressful. And it like when I first got done with that car, I went to Indy shortly after that. And like, I don't think the car saw full throttle all weekend because I was so nervous and with new car jitters and stuff like that.
Sure.
Like, I expected the car to blow up because it was like the first engine that I put back together and tore down and stuff like that. I expected the thing to blow up. And so it never, like that first weekend, it never saw full throttle all weekend.
Yeah.
And it was because of anxiety. But so I learned from that. So when I went to Texas 2K, I didn't mess with the car at all last year.
Okay.
And when I didn't mess with the car, it made me miss building it. To where I try to tell people, like, enjoy the build process, because like that first startup or that first time you drive your car, it makes all those long nights and everything worth it. Yeah. And to where like now it's every time I get in the car, it puts a smile on my face.
Right.
I mean, I might be mad at it for breaking, but when I get it fixed and it makes a pass and it doesn't break,
yeah,
you're fist pumping inside the car because you're ecstatic that it stayed together.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with the car. I'm enjoying the whole build process as much as I'm trying to get it out for next year. It's one of those things where it's like, if it doesn't make it, it's okay, because so that's where I'm at. I'm enjoying trying to figure out how to put a solid rear axle in it, and trying to figure out how to do the front end. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited for it. It's not even my car. I'm excited for it.
It's going to be a totally different animal when it comes out.
Yeah.
And I know it's again, it's a big stretch to go from high 8s to high 7s. Like,
it's huge.
It's going to take a lot to get there.
Yeah.
But the
first couple seconds come off easy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. The first year of building it, I went like 10 ones. And then that next year, I think I found, when I finally got the car, I jumped a full second. And it was just because of getting used to the car.
Yeah.
To where that it took me the middle of summer to go from 9 ones to 8 9s. And that was only 0.2 seconds. Yeah. It took forever to get there.
Yeah, and you were racing it a lot more often too, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I'm luckily, like I said, I have the right people in the corner that I can bounce ideas from and try to get the car set up.
Sure.
So we'll see how the rest of the season goes. So
yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for you. I think you're going to be there. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't be. If you're doing it on a stock bottom end car now, there's no reason with a with a fully built Dart you should have any issues. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, people say, well, it should be easy because you're running this at stock. No, it's still gonna get used to all the extra horsepower.
Right. Well, it's more or less you now. It's you know, not to put it like this, but you're the chink in the armor now. You know what I'm saying? You're the weak point. Because the
Right.
car is going to be built and it's gonna have all the power it needs and it's going to be able to handle the power. Now it's you having to get used to the power and know how to learn how to use that power. And
Right.
so, you know, up until this point, you know, you've gotten better as a driver, and every time you take the car out, you know, like you said, like in the back of your head, you're almost like, don't blow up, don't blow up, don't blow up, right? Because the car has always been the weak point, right? It's not you, because you've now are so used to the car. Now you get the car built, and the car can handle, you know, an extra 600-700 horsepower over what you're currently putting at it.
Yeah.
And now it's you. Now you're back to square one,
right?
As far as, okay, now I have a fresh build that I have to learn now. I'm the one that's holding the time back, not the car anymore. You know, so it's
because I've never done a wheelie, and I'm sure I'll do a wheelie with this car now after the new. But it's one of those things where, like, you do when you're like, oh, like you freak out and you smack the car, and the next thing you know, you're having to rebuild something.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's going to happen. So I think after this round of mods, I'm done with the car. Like,
no,
it's
not.
Just going to get too stupid after that.
This car. Don't lie to yourself.
Unless I break it, like, do something stupid with it, I should not have to put another. Or obviously, if the motor breaks, I'd have to fix it. But with the motor and the rear end and all that stuff, I'm done. I'd be done building the car. Like, the goal is to run like the 7s with it, and then I'll probably tune it down to run 850s in like drag week or something.
Yeah, but see,
that's the end goal.
This is kind of similar to like. Good.
The end goal is to run drag week or one of the drag and drive events and pull a trailer behind me and finish the week at like as close to 850 as possible. So that's the end goal, but to get a 7-second slip would be awesome.
Yeah, but you know, it's funny because if you compare your end goal now to what your end goal was when you started this journey, right? I mean, every time
I just wanted to go 8.
That's what I'm saying. Like every time, you know, as you move forward, as the build moves forward, so does that goal, right? Like, you're just, I always try to, you know, imagine, you know, there's this much space between you and your goal, right? But the problem is you can never close that gap because that goal moves with you. So as you're, you know, when you have a stock car, when your car was running 14s, at some point you were probably like, man, I just want this fucking car to go 12s, man. And then it goes 12s, and you're like, I just want this car to go 10s, dude. And then it goes 10s. You're like, I just want this car to go 9s, and then it goes 9s. I just want this car to. As you're moving, you know, once you hit that goal, it's not like you're never like, all right, I'm there. This is ultimately where I want, because as you got to it, like. What happens and what I foresee happening, what I've seen happen a million times is, you know, you're going to get to your goal. I have no doubt you're going to get to your goal, right? And the first could be 50, could be 10, could be 100 times that you hit that goal, that you pass that goal. It's going to be exhilarating every time until it's not, right? And then and at some point you're going to be like, it's not scary anymore. It's that your adrenaline's not running anymore. You're not. You know, it's just what your car is now. You're so used to the power and you're so used to what it does, and it's so consistent. You're like, well, this car runs 850s every time I get in it. I don't even break out into sweat anymore because my adrenaline doesn't even pump because that's what I'm so in tune with the car.
Used to it.
Yeah, and at some point you're gonna go, all right, let's hit the boost up. Let's see what happens. You know, and
I don't know. I'll build another car before I do that because I don't want to get rid of as much as I don't know. I don't want to get rid of the back seats.
Okay,
like I want the back seats back there, and if I was to go fast and say go 750s with the car, then you're building a cage, and it gets rid of the back seats.
Yeah.
So that's why I would be done building this car. Now, would I go faster with another car? Probably.
Sure.
Probably with a better chassis to where I'm not beating my head every time I go to the track. But like I said, the goals with the car now, granted, like I said, it was 8s and now it's 7s. After I go 7s with it, I'll probably, like I said, put it at 850 car and go have some fun with it.
Yeah. Well, at that point, with the motor you're building too, I mean, you'll be very comfortable at that time.
Yeah, and I mean, I originally built this car to enjoy the family, but also be able to take it to the track and hang out with my friends. Because for a while there, I helped everybody else.
Yeah,
I helped my friends go fast, and I kind of got burnt out on it to where I wanted my own car,
right,
to run.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked out to where I got a deal on the G8, and things kind of dwindled down to where now it's, like I said, it went 14.0 to high 8 second car.
Yeah,
so,
I mean that's fast.
So I'm happy with the car. It's like I said, but it's also the experience and like the people that I've met that has also helped me stick with the platform as long as I have.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have that support, I'm sure I would at this time I'd be in a Mustang or a Camaro or something.
Well, yeah, because at some point you're gonna hit a wall where you personally are like, I don't even know what to do to take this further, and that's where it helps to have somebody step in and be like, well, like for like example, same thing like with the Turbo 400 with Justin. At some point you were like, I'm giving up on this 6L80. I'm going Turbo 400, and Justin steps in and says, hey, I could help you out, and
right.
And I think we would all be there at some point without somebody willing to or able to help out and bring us to the next stage, get us over that hump. Like once you get over that hump, you might be able to take the reins back, but it's that hump that you need help with, and it's good to have somebody that could help you out over it, So yeah, the community is definitely good for that. And you see it even with little issues, man. You see it on Facebook where someone will post an issue that doesn't even, it's not even a big issue, but someone will post something like, "Hey, I'm having a misfire, on cylinder 7, and this is happening, that's happening, and here's the code I got." And you got 40, 50 people jumping on there like, "Oh, well, does it do it when you do this? Did swap the coil pack, see if it follows the pack, see if it follows the plugs?" And you got people who are there just willing to help, just throwing information out there. And that's, to me, that's awesome, right? To me, that's something that God's honest truth, I haven't seen in other communities. I'm in a lot of I'm in a lot of groups that people have added me to, different LS groups, Camaro groups, Corvette groups, and stuff like that. And a lot of times people post what some people with your experience might consider a stupid question, and they get flamed.
Right.
And you're like, dude, the guy, at some point you were that guy. At some point you were the guy who didn't know why he was getting a cylinder 7 misfire. He didn't know what the gap should be on the plugs. He didn't know to swap coil packs and see if it follows. He didn't know that. And here you are 10 years removed flaming the guy for it. In the GA community, sure, you get some of that, but it's definitely seems to be one of the less toxic communities. There's a lot of people who are really willing to help.
That's how I feel. I mean, yep.
Yeah.
But I know, I'm in a couple CTSV groups, and I know it gets pretty bad over there in the CTSV groups.
I mean, it's good entertainment, but damn, man, those guys are ruthless.
Right. It's good library or bathroom material, as they call it.
Good bathroom reading, but man, I hate to be the guy asking questions, dude. I hate it.
Right.
There's been times where I've had to ask a question and where something's come up and I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I'll type it out and I'm like, you know what? I'm deleting it because I don't want to, I don't want to deal with the backlash of it. I'll just call some people I know personally, be like, hey man, what is this? What's going on here?
I'll just text Rick and wait 5 days for him to reply. So
yeah, I can't say nothing. My man, he's there when I call him. He's never let me down.
Beginning of this year, we went to Streetcar Takeover at Martin here at my home track, and I had a private rental and was trying to get the car ready for streetcar takeover, running the heavyweight class. Well, on my third pass, my dumb self forgot to take the car out of first and leave in second, and I bent the drive shaft. And I was like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to fix this thing. Like I said, prior to that, I think I broke the car the 4 other events I was at. I was like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
And a good buddy of mine was like, no, we'll get you fixed up. And luckily, we had a drive shaft shop like 8-10 minutes from where the track was. And he called them, and they were like, yeah, bring the drive shaft here. We'll get you a new one made up and get you back on the road today. So I had dropped the drive shaft. I dropped my aluminum one off at like 11:30 and had a new one. They made a new one by 3:30. I picked it up at 3:30, got it to the track, threw it back in, and was making test pits that night. That's awesome. Like, it's one of those things. It takes like someone to talk to me. It's like, all right, you can fix the thing.
Yeah.
Like, get your
someone's got to talk you off the ledge.
Moping around. Yeah, exactly. Stop talking me off the ledge and stuff. So, but yeah, there's times when I was like, I'm done. Like, I got done. I had issues with it when I went to a takeover in Indy, and like I was like, I'm done. Like, I was so burnt out with it to where the car sat in the garage for a month and a half, and the only reason it was a month and a half was because 2 weeks I had to have it ready for LS Fest. So I was like, all right, I got to get back on it. So the 2 weeks were stressful leading up to it. But I was burnt out, and there's times where people get burnt out and they just don't want to do something. But
I mean, I've seen a lot of people, get like that, and I mean, and that's, I think that's with any car, because this hobby is not for the faint of heart, man. I mean, you're gonna hit walls left and right. You're gonna hit stopping points, and you're gonna get to the point where you're just, you're frustrated, or in a situation like yours where the last 6 times you took it out, something broke. At some point, you're like, "Yo, I'm just done, dude. I'm just done." And it's almost like you lose that love for it a little bit, right? And because you're just so frustrated with it. And I've been there, and I think I was talking to someone recently. I can't remember if it was on the last episode or whatnot, but I remember saying, like, there was times where, even my own car, even though nothing had broken, I was just like, I'm over it, and then I inside of me, I would never take myself to get rid of it, because I know that I know it's temporary, and I know at some point I'm going to say, no, I want back. And so, and you see it all the time. I mean, how many people do you see that sold their G8s and are still in the G8 groups, and they're still like, oh, I'm going to own another one day. And you're like, it's just like, it's, that's why I can never sell it, because I see so many people who regret it. I have yet to see somebody who sold one and is like, I am 100% happy with my decision, and I'll never buy another G8, or I'll never buy another SS.
Yeah, because you see those ones where, like, hey, I'm willing to sell a G8, looking to get a V2 or a Corvette or something. Yeah. They're like, you'll go back to a G8. Yep. That's what's going to happen.
Yep. And 6 months later, they're still in the G8 groups. Yeah. They're still commenting. They're still like, hey, what's going on, guys? And it's like, what are you doing here, bro? You turncoat? Yeah. But all right, well, Chris, thanks again for stopping by, doing this, having this chat with us. I really appreciate it, and like I said before, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing where you go and following your build, man. It's really it's inspiring for me. I know it is for a lot of other people too.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, man, anytime. And like I said, send me the link to your YouTube, and we'll put it in the description.
Will do.
All right,
Thanks,
man.
Sir.
Have a good night, buddy.
See ya.
Later.